This week, we celebrate Catholic Schools Week. It's a great opportunity for us to celebrate a wonderful theme that we hold so dear here at Judge Memorial High School. How we are different, and yet we are united. How we are many parts in one body. Perhaps if we look at the first reading of this weekend's Mass, we can better understand how those seemingly two opposites are held together very nicely. The reading comes from the book of Nehemiah. Nehemiah was a great political leader for the house of Israel. We understand that in the year 587 BC, Israel suffered probably its most devastating event. The Babylonians invaded. They came from the north, swept quickly through the northern kingdom, into the southern kingdom, and surrounded the city of Jerusalem. Quickly, they breached the walls of the city, and they destroyed the temple and burned the city to the ground. Then they gathered up the house of Israel, all the people, and they carted them off in enslavement to the city of Babylon. There, generation after generation, they lived a horrible life. Through the instrumentality of a pagan king called Cyrus, they were able to return to their homeland. Upon reaching the city of Jerusalem, they felt, well, like many of us might have felt when September 11, 2001, the World Trade Centers came tumbling down. Many in New York and the surrounding area never thought the city would be rebuilt. Likewise, the Jewish people felt the same way. They looked upon their city and were very sad, depressed actually. But through the great political leader Nehemiah, they rebuilt. He ordered that the people rebuild the walls, and so to protect the city, to carve out an identity once again for the Jewish people. They did feel secure, and they did prosper. But their unity came not only from walls, came something deeper. Nehemiah's second move was to order the priest Ezra, who found a copy of the Torah that had been misplaced for many generations. He ordered Azariah to stand before every man, woman, and child and read the entire 5 books of the Torah. It took 6 long hours to go through the entire thing. Can you imagine doing anything for 6 hours, let alone listening to someone read to you? But as the story tells us, the people stood there and tears rolled down their cheeks. They were so happy to not only be in their homeland, but to listen to the Word of God. And it is the Word of God that brought them their unity, their oneness. The Word of God formed them into one body, even though there were many different kinds of people. Likewise, many religions turn to the Word of God for their unity. Sure, we go to our places of worship, and they have physical walls that keep the roof up and the people protected. But it's the Word of God that brings unity to a vast number of people. People make sacrifices. Like this last weekend, I saw many people traveling in the snow over icy conditions to come out of their individual houses because they wanted to be part of something bigger. In the Catholic Mass, we spend probably a good half hour listening to the Word of God and then having it explained to us in a homily. That word causes a unification amongst the many people that we are. Like the Jewish people, we find our identity in the Word of God. But another thing that comes along with that is that we are to reach out to the world. The Jewish people knew very, very well that they were a chosen people, not chosen to hunker down to a secluded area, left to their own devices, to their own community. No, they were to be a very generous people. And so, like walls that have windows, they used the Word of God that gave them strength to reach out through their lives, through their words and actions to the world around them. You see, the Jewish people saw themselves as a light on a hill, a light for the nations. They were called salt of the earth. Their mission was to bring all the nations, through their words and actions, to God. Likewise, in the church, we are not to hunker down behind walls. Walls without windows is, well, solitary confinement, where it's dark and kind of dismal. Our walls have windows. Some are clear, some are stained glass windows. Likewise, our lives have windows. We are not just to find our identity, but hanging out with people that we know, even surrounded by the Word of God. No, that Word of God penetrates each and every one of us. And then, through the windows of our lives, we share that good news with everyone that we meet. You know, some people tell me, the church needs to modernize even more. It needs to get with the sign of the times. But, as good as the world is, and as many things that are so wonderful in it, there are things that need transformation. Not everything in the world is wonderful, beautiful. There's ugliness in the world. There's sin in the world. And so God calls us, like the Jewish people, to take the Word of God out into our culture and to share what we've learned in our churches and our places of worship with those around us, in our workplaces, in our school, wherever we find ourselves. It's important to find unity around the Word of God, but it's not very healthy if we don't share it with those around us. And so there is this wonderful lesson for us during this Catholic Schools Week, that we find our unity in the Word of God, but then we share that Word of God with the rest of the world. Diversity and unity, both necessary to live a happy, healthy, and holy life. God bless you.